Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I don't know about you folks, but I intend to ride XRP to the top. Now, to be clear, I don't mean I'm actually going to try to sell the top. That would be a fool's errand. Nobody can sell the exact tippy top of the market. There are things that you can analyze that can make you think, and maybe accurately so, that we're getting close to the end of the cycle, and that makes sense. But I am going to be going along for this entire ride as we ultimately, as a community, get to the top. And I've got my own plan for scaling out of my personal position, but it is coming, folks. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about a few things that we should, and I certainly am, going to continue to track and highlight on this channel so that we'll have a bit of a warning as this market cycle is coming to its peak. You do not want to be caught off guard when that happens. Trust me on that. So I'm going to talk about a few things we will absolutely be tracking so that we don't get wrong-footed. So there's no way to perfectly know where the top is. Again, nobody can do that. Nobody can perfectly mark that. Not consistently. Sometimes you guess enough things, you're going to get something right if you're an analyst. But there are certain things that happen every single cycle. There's certain metrics you can look at that should instill confidence that you're in that zone where, hey, it's getting a bit risky to continue to hold certain cryptocurrencies. Also, I'm going to share with you perspective from 7 different XRP chart analysts in this latest Moon Lambo hot jam. And some of them do think that there's still, even to this day, thinks there's a decent chance that before XRP continues to the upside, we actually are going to see a bit of a cratering. And it would be market-wide, not just XRP, but a lot of them think that we're going to see XRP below $2 before we see it back above $3. And the good news is, and I don't say that to scare you, even the analysts that think that is probable will tell you XRP is still going to enter price discovery, hit yet another one time high, enter price discovery and melt phases. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, as I record this video, it is 3:16 p.m. Central Time, which is my time zone. It is Thursday, June 19th, 2025. XRP is $2.17. Bitcoin's at $104,426. So we're just ranging. This is more ranging. We won't stay here forever. That's for damn sure. But you know, are the analysts that are calling, because there are some analysts, not analysts that I regularly fly, but there are analysts that are saying, hey, the top of the cycle's in. Is there any chance they could be right? And I think there's about a 0% chance of that. So let's talk about some actual top indicators, can we? Of course we can. It's my channel, damn it, and I do what I want. So take a look at this. I shared this post earlier this afternoon on X. I wrote, here's one of a multitude of metrics that I'll be tracking to get a feel for when we're getting close to the top of the market cycle. This metric, NUPL, which stands for Net Unrealized Profit/Loss, tells you what percentage of Bitcoin's market cap is in profit. Right now, it's about 55%. When that figure gets closer to 75%, I'll start to get a bit concerned. Now, folks, I understand that not all of you own Bitcoin or you're not excited about it, and that's fine. Like, frankly, I'm excited for my altcoins specifically, not as much Bitcoin, even though it is one of my larger holdings. I just don't think it's going to do much more from here, even though you'll get a final parabolic surge. I'm expecting most of my wealth that I intend to make this market cycle is going to come from XRP and altcoins here. But, you know what's probably going to top before XRP is Bitcoin. I'm willing to bet that Bitcoin's going to top before. And so we should be focusing on this. And then if XRP, and we'll keep watching XRP along the way as well, but once we see that Bitcoin's getting into danger zone where historically it's doing stuff that leads you to believe that, hey, it's probably going to be topping soon, well, then we know there's going to be limited time for XRP also. And then we'll watch metrics for XRP, but one thing at a time. You need to be aware of this one first. And so again here, so I wrote, so right now, the NUPL for Bitcoin is at 55%, and I noted that when it gets closer to 75%, I'll start to get a bit concerned. Now, why is that? Well, because when Bitcoin goes on a price rally, lots of people end up with unrealized profit, and they will want to realize that profit, so they'll sell, of course, especially if Bitcoin goes truly parabolic. that will entice many market participants to take profit. NUPL doesn't tell you when the market peaks, but historically, it's done a fantastic job of indicating when it's getting close to the peak. Of course, alt season can proceed even after Bitcoin peaks, and that's my expectation, of course. And so I went on ChatGPT and I got some screen grabs generated. Here's one right here. Reads as follows. Here's a visual style cheat sheet for interpreting Bitcoin's NUPL, net unrealized profit / loss metric, including what each range typically means for market sentiment in cycle phase. Okay, so this is one of the many metrics I'm going to be tracking, and if we keep tracking this stuff, it substantially reduces the odds that we're going to hold our crypto too long. You don't want to get caught with your head in the sand. You can miss your opportunity for life-changing wealth. You need to be aware of this, and I will be screaming as we're peaking, getting towards the end, and we are late. I mean, even as, and I've been saying that obvious, it just seems obvious, but even ChatGPT characterized it in such a way. They wrote that we're in late bull cycle, because again, we are at the NUPL for Bitcoin right now is 55%. That puts us in late bull cycle. And so here you can see most holders are in profit, market getting hot. So that's the interpretation as cited here, and that's accurate. But what about when you get at 75% or higher? That's euphoria. That's cycle top zone. Peak risk. Most holders deep in profit, high chance of top. So let me give you some historical context so that you can understand why we need to pay attention to this metric. This is a crucial metric to be paying attention to so that you do not get wrong-footed when it comes to being prepared to sell your XRP, because I believe that's going to come after this. But for the 4 primary peaks where the market got way too hot for the history of Bitcoin, they're on your screen right now. And you can see that this metric, it's consistently shown you, hey, we're getting in overheated territory. Like this was a warning for every single instance in history. And I don't think it's going to be any different this time, which is also why I do not believe that we have seen the best that this market cycle is going to offer. It is not done. I mean, so what? We're going to say the NUPL for the first time in history, it just doesn't get overheated, right? It doesn't get overheated, and then people don't rotate, and there's no alt season. Like, this is just it. I just don't buy that. I think that's silly nonsense. I think humans are going to act the same, roughly speaking, as they have in every single other cycle, and it's going to be just fine. And so here you can see the peak for 2021 was at 0.78, which is 78%, just to be clear. And then there was the 2017 bull run that was at 87%, 2013, 88%, 2011, 87%. So they note here that 2021 cycle, the number was lower. The NUPL did peak at a lower level at 78%, and they're stating that that's probably due to lower demand. It's not lower demand. It was lower due to institutional shift, and I think the argument effectively that's being made there is that there are different risk preferences and tolerances for institutional money flowing in versus retail. So maybe the retail holders were willing to hold on a bit longer and maybe risk a little bit more, whereas on an institutional side, maybe they're going to be wanting to take a little bit more money off the table sooner, which is perfectly fine. But that's why I say, even for me, even before we get to 75, if we get, so you got to get 72, 70, 71, 72, 73. As we creep up there, I'll keep talking about it. That's going to make me real nervous because you could peak lower than 75%. It doesn't mean we have to hit at least that. It could peak lower than that this time by a little bit, Now, the good news is we're not there yet. We're certainly not there yet. And I do not believe for a moment this time is going to be different. And here's how it's calculated, just to make sure everybody understands what this is actually tracking here. So ChatGPT gave an example. Bitcoin's market cap is $2 trillion, and its realized cap, which, by the way, is what people paid for their Bitcoin, if that's $500 billion, well, then to calculate this is easy. What you do is you just take the $2 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, and then you subtract what people actually paid for their Bitcoin, which is $500 billion, which leaves you with $1.5 trillion. That $1.5 trillion, that is the unrealized profits in market cap. That's the unrealized profit. And then you can figure out what percentage that is, and you get that by just dividing the market cap by that number, and then you get 75%. So, and that's a lot. You can see that's a lot. 1.5 trillion in unrealized profits. Yeah, that's pretty damn big. And you better believe that people are going to be ready to take some profit. Once it gets that high, It's somebody's going to do it, and then another person's going to do it. You're going to have this cascading effect, and then you're going to have a market dump. That's what's going to happen here, which is why you need to be very careful as we creep up closer to this level at 75%, and we'll probably get close, presumably. Just be very cautious here. Another thing that will be signaling that the end is coming is M2. So I've been consistent. I've been talking about it a lot, but that's because it matters a lot. Okay, this is a major thing that will give you an idea of what's going to happen in crypto markets directionally. We're going to head up. Are we going to head down? Well, global M2. We're talking about liquidity here. It leads the way, and then the price of Bitcoin and altcoins, it just follows. And this is true of equities as well. And so this post was shared by Crypto Seth, and he wrote, M2 global money supply dictates the movement of global equities. The correlation between M2, Bitcoin, and altcoins is still significant. Deviations happen due to global external events like war and pandemic. It is just statistics. Yeah. Okay. So directionally, Bitcoin will do whatever M2 is doing. Directionally, it will do whatever it's doing about 90% of the time. And I got that figure from the folks over at GMI, Global Macro Investor, like Raoul Paul, for example, Julian Biddle, Jamie Coots, just really sharp individuals, heavily data-driven. I'm gigantic fans of them. And I've learned a lot from them. And I love sharing what I've learned from them along the way and others. And this is very useful stuff. So what I will tell you is eventually, what you're going to see here, and this will be another thing that's going to mark, hey, we're getting close to the top. You're going to see that global M2 here, liquidity, it's going to peak. And it's going to stall, and it's going to go down. And and Bitcoin is the same. It's the same chart as M2 with a 12-week leg. That's what it is. Because it takes people. Once there's people, businesses, institutions have more money, it takes time for them to actually allocate it, which is why typically there's that 10 to 12 week lag time, depending on who you ask. But that's about what it is. And so as we hit that will be another indicator. And of course, any decent chart analyst is going to be pulling up any number of additional metrics to highlight, guys, so-and-so metric, it's signaling, this is what it did last time the cycle peaked and the time for that. Stuff even just as simple as relative strength index. Every analyst worth their salt is going to be talking about these things. So I will be screaming all of this to you on the channel. But the good news is, first we can expect that we're finally going to have a massive blow off top for XRP. And so let's talk about some of this, even if it does go down first, which is possible. I don't pretend to know if it will, but it certainly could. Here's a post from KSC Trades, XRP USD chart on your screen here. It says the market is officially out of time. After months of tightening, the XRP consolidation has finally reached its apex, and something big is coming next. There are only two paths from here. Either the explosive breakout we've been waiting for begins now, or we see one final sharp drop to support that ignites the breakout we've all been preparing for. Okay, so either we're going to drop first, closer to that $2 level, maybe even a bit below that, and finally that'll set us up properly for a big run, or we could just go from here. And look, I'm not even going to bother trying to bet on that. One of those things is going to happen. Lots of analysts think that we're actually just going to rampage from here to the upside, but there are some that think we're actually going to dip first. I don't know which analysts are right on this, but they all agree that this thing isn't just going to end without XRP melting faces. So it's coming either way here. It's just that there's a reason that these analysts may feel a little bit different depending on who you ask. And it just comes down to the fact that there is a recognition here. Like, this is the type of thing that can happen with the chart formation that's been playing out. But you're going to find varying opinions about how likely it is that you have to take out those lows first. But nobody's disputing that would be a normal thing if it does, which is why nobody's freaking out if that happens. Not these analysts, not the ones I follow. Anyway, she continues though. Price continues to struggle with the $2.25 level I've talked about continuously. As long as this remains resistance, it increases the likelihood that we'll sweep the lower levels. $2.01. $1.90. Even $1.55 are still on the table. These aren't bearish targets, they're momentum zones. Areas where the market grabs the liquidity it needs to build momentum for wave 3. What makes this moment even more critical is the timing. It's midweek, Wednesday. She posted this yesterday. Wednesday, this is when sentiment tends to flip. We've seen it before many times at the end of consolidation. a sharp fake out that recovers by macro close, leaving most people behind. Combine that with rising global tension, this is not just technicals lining up, it's the whole picture aligning. Sentiment, structure, timing, even global headlines. Zoom out to the daily and you'll see it clearly. The RSI has built a clear pattern, acting as a guide for the end of this squeeze. Do not miss what's next. Yeah. So there is broad recognition, and I've been saying this a lot in like tons of videos where I'm talking about price. There's broad acceptance that we're at the moment where something's got to happen with XRP. It cannot and will not stay fluttering around here at this price range forever. It just can't and won't. Something is going to happen. Just like I was screaming the same thing throughout so much of 2024 because it's very clear that XRP was getting towards the end of that roughly 7-year consolidation, which is the longest consolidation in crypto history. It was very obvious that it was going. We didn't know for sure when it was going to pop, but it was going to, and it sure as hell did. And I'm telling you, that part of what I'm talking like that is we're living through that again. It's just on a smaller time scale. So maybe we do have to wait a little bit longer. We'll see. But each of the last 2 cycles, like I keep saying, you had one major pop in the price of XRP. It really jumped, consolidated for about half a year, and then you had the second leg up, and that concluded the cycle. So if history's going to kind of rhyme with itself, we're getting pretty close to that, right? We're pretty much there. Not that it has to play out exactly like that, but history does tend to rhyme with itself. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK. It says Ethereum plus XRP liquidity. People saying a move up first is what the chart is screaming for. However, XRP and Ethereum completely contradict this messaging. And so Crypto Insight UK, yes, he does believe that we're going to see double-digit price action this market cycle. He's made that clear. He believes we're going to peak probably between 20 to 30 bucks. He said that on a number of occasions. But he does think that in the short term, we're more likely than not going lower. Sub $2, even if it's just a short-lived thing. He thinks that's happening, but not just with XRP. It's not like XRP is going to just go down by itself. Take a look at this post from Crypto Insight UK. He says, interesting Bitcoin liquidity development. And this is from this morning, by the way. He says, we are of course seeing more liquidity build above us. However, in the last 18 hours, we've seen the red pocket develop below us, as you can see. We're also seeing $92,000 to $95,000 add liquidity. This is people thinking the bottom is in and going long. It's where they get liquidated / stopped out. I really hope we come down first and then move up. This would make me excited for an aggressive move to the upside. If we take the highs first, I will be more confused as to what comes next. So that would wipe out everyone that needs to get wiped out basically if we go down for that final sweep of the lows, and then he'll have confidence. But he says if we don't go from here, it's like not going to have as much clarity. And fair enough, that's fine. So he'd actually prefer that. He thinks that would set us up for a massive bull run. Here's a post from chart analyst Xrp To. He says, since April, I've been talking about this fractal from 2017 that XRP been following very closely. We should be very close to a massive expansion in the whole crypto market soon. Stop focusing on war narratives and look at the charts. Super bullish setup, $13 to $15 soon. And so yet another analyst thinking the timing of this lines up. But see, the cool thing is, doesn't that line up with all sorts of other concepts, ideas from other analysts, not even just about XRP? Doesn't the timing just in a general sense seem to be jiving here? Well, obviously, yes. So it's just nice to see this, you know? And the idea of, XRP getting to 13 to 15 bucks. I don't know if it will. I don't make price predictions. I do believe it's like that could be in the cards. Like I don't think that's a wild expectation. Maybe we'll hit it, maybe we won't, but I don't think that's a wild expectation at all. Stuff like that happens in crypto, folks. XRP is not done. I think that the second pump that it has this cycle is going to be way more impressive than the first pump in terms of dollars added, to the price here. Here's a post from chart analyst Zoom. He says, XRP Bollinger Bands tightening. Every time we've seen this happen, you know what happens next. Yeah, and I've been talking about this, the Bollinger. There are multiple analysts that have been highlighting this in recent days. And this is a thing that signaled the first major breakout for XRP in November of 2024. Tightening again, my friends. And it's at a time. This is why I keep telling you. Every analyst under the sun, pretty much, I don't know, about 100%, if not literally 100% of the XRP chart analysts I follow, even though they're not all literally saying exactly the same thing, they do believe that we're living in this moment where something should be happening soon. That I am seeing. So you can argue about whether that means we go down first or we rip to the upside, but something's coming. Here's a post from Chart Analyst World of Charts. XRP here. It says XRP looking really solid, XRP looking ready for solid recovery. However, still breakout hasn't confirmed. So keep that in mind, folks, not confirmed. If XRP breaks descending trend line plus horizontal area, then it can move towards $3.40 all-time high. So there's another analyst that is, again, another one, recognizing, hey, something could be happening here. It's just not confirmed that it is going to be the move to the upside. But another analyst, something's going to happen. See, like we're living in that moment. I just keep seeing that. Here's a post from trade analyst X-Force Global, XRP USD chart. XRP, the macro direction was met with very little margin of error. Everything from the wave 4 triangle breakout to the anticipated 1-2 pullback following the 5-wave impulse, it all followed the blueprint. There's no valid reason to adopt a bearish stance unless the market clearly invalidates the bullish case. Context is key here. Right now, we remain within the bounds of the same two scenarios, but the dotted path, the ultra bullish scenario, is gaining more credibility by the day. So here's an analyst that actually thinks it's more likely that maybe we're just going to rip from here and ultimately get into double digits pretty quickly, you know, as in either this month or July, as painted here on this chart. So, and look, and by the way, he's not the only analyst that has been talking about the possibility for double-digit price action either this month or next month. And I understand why analysts are saying this, even though no analyst can consistently predict a timeline. If you are just talking about a historic precedent and how long things have taken to play out and what that would mean for XRP, well, then it actually would land you there. So it doesn't mean for sure that is what's going to happen, but it's not crazy to think that it is within the realm of possibility that it actually, XRP could start going that quickly and that tremendously. Here's a post from chart analyst The Great Matsby, XRP BTC chart. He says, XRP BTC pair is not rolling over. On the monthly chart, it's a breakout and backtest of the conversion line and baseline, getting ready to break through the cloud and outperform Bitcoin. And so, folks, as I have said many times here, yes, it's great that XRP just destroyed Bitcoin's little bitch ass in terms of performance. When we were down here, where I'm moving my mouse, that's basically a historic low, about the lowest point that XRP had ever been priced against Bitcoin. And that's when all the irrational XRP haters said, see, that's a terrible buy. You should not be holding it. Sell it before it's even more so too late. You know, that type of sentiment. And I said, well, no, because historically, every time we've gotten into this range, it's been what precedes a massive move to the upside. You can see it happened here in the previous cycle and the cycle before that in 2017. Very obvious. So as we were there for so much of 2024, I was like, guys, actually, no, that's stupid. These are really bad takes. It's going to blow. And so it did. But it's not done. Look at how high XRP has been priced against Bitcoin in the past. Like 2 cycles ago. It didn't really get it as high last cycle, obviously, because the government was attacking XRP effectively by suing Ripple. But we don't have that this time. So the idea of XRP getting more back, back into this range up here wouldn't surprise me. Maybe we'll get a new all-time high for XRP price against Bitcoin. Wouldn't surprise me. Which means, and you can imagine what that would mean for the XRP USD pair too. I mean, it's just going to be ridiculous. Like, so many people are just going to have ridiculous, wild, life-changing wealth. I mean, that's what's at hand. If we are right about our suspicions and where this is going, which have to be proven, still fine. But if that ends up happening, my God, it's just going to be buck wild for so many people. It's just an incredible and exciting time to be an XRP holder. So I'm optimistic, even if we go down lower first. I will not be freaking out if that happens. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.